So in this session I'm going to look at the options available with Solid Edge, most of them add-ons, for outputting your technical information. So obviously, apart from the normal 2D environment, we have some 3D options. So the first one is 3D PDF, so we go straight out to Save As, and in the options here we can change to a Adobe Acrobat 3D PDF document. So we'll change that and save, and this takes out not only the model and all the parts plus the dimensions as well. So the PDF is created, so we can just open that like any other PDF, but as soon as you do open it, you'll notice that we have this option up here. So you need to make sure that the document is trusted, and then if you click on the sort of graphics window, you'll see that the part is displayed in here. Left mouse button to rotate it, and you can see that the PMI, the dimensions, have come through as well. What's not quite as obvious is the options on the left hand side. So if we right mouse click and show navigation pane, we have the ability to show the parts in the model. So we can turn those on or off if we want to, and we can say isolate, and that allows us to look at individual pieces. You can specify what your highlight color is, so if you want something that's a little bit less detailed, so we can sort of quickly show what we've got in here. You've got your standard views over here as well, so that allows you to display that. You'll also find that you can actually set a part to be transparent so that you can see inside components as well. So for basic information sharing, this one works quite well. People don't need to have anything special to view the files. So yeah, this comes with part of standard Solid Edge. The next tool that is available is an add-on called Model Based Definition, and you'll find the components of that under the PMI tab, and you've got some options here to section by plane, create a view, and then you can create a template that you're going to use to publish. So I've created a few dimensions on this model. I've created a call out, and I've also created a model view already, but I'm just going to do the section by plane to start with, and I'll just create a second plane, not wanting that first one, so I'll delete that, and this gives me the option of moving or rotating the view just to sort of give a different perspective, but I'm going to just finish with that, and that creates my section view. So we've got a section view over here. Now if I go to my right hand view and turn on a couple of these dimensions, you can see that we're sort of building up something a little bit more here. You can add in extra dimensions and styles and whatever you need, and from here I'm going to click on the view command and give that a name, and you'll see that that comes in over under the model views, so we've got the right section, and it shows you what components are created with that. So going back to the isometric view, we can sort of then turn off this one. I'm going to switch this around to sort of the alternate isometric, and I'm going to hide these ones, turn on my annotation, and have linear 1 and linear 2, which is these at the front, and I'll create a new model view for that as well. So with these model views, you can sort of right mouse click and apply view, and that shows you what you have available, and you'll see that it switches between those views quite nicely. So moving on, we can then sort of create a template. So template editor, you can sort of just quickly set up your window. We can have a 3D view which we can place in here. We've got the grid options up here if we want to use something a little bit more specific. Once we've placed that, we can then resize to suit. So 3D view is going to be the main thing. Then the bomb view, again, we can place that and resize. We can place just a call out, we can place images and so on. So that sort of just creates the template. When you're finished, you can go and hit the save button, and that gets saved into typically the template 3D PDF publish folder. So I've already done that, so I'm just going to leave that one for the moment. So when you've finished with your model PMI setup, we can then go into publish 3D PDF, specify the name of the file that we're going to work with, or the template, which folder it's going to get published into, and then a third option, which is the file name. So some of these other options, open the 3ds viewer, we can publish to HTML as well at the same time, and add the next and previous action buttons into the PDF as well, and you can see the 3 model view section views, or the views that we created. And alternatively, you can add in an option to generate a step file and JT files. They will come in as attachments, or you can just add in separate attachments whatsoever, which will be attached with the PDF. So once we've finished that, we just go and publish, and that goes through into creating that document for me, and that comes back to what we had with the previous options, but we have something that looks a little bit more sort of professional. We have the parts libraries, we have our section views, and we can sort of then just go with the standard views as well. You've still got your same viewing options on here, and you've also got the ability to select parts in here, and it will show you which parts they belong to by highlighting them in the model. So for completeness on this topic, I'm going to look at the Solid Edge Web Publisher, which has been around for well over 10 years, and it's found under the Tools menu. So it's just this little button here, which will create an Internet Explorer web page. So you have various options on sort of what the display is going to be once it's created, and all I need to do is go next, enter my information, and I'm going to just save this to a specific location, which is this one here. So that goes through and creates the web pages for me. I can go to preview, and that brings up the web page. So you can see that we have the ability to sort of zoom in, zoom out, rotate as we did in the PDF. We can have a look at the part tree, so we have all the information available here, including properties, and it will highlight in the window. We have the options over here to hide or show parts as well, so I can select it in the window as well as on the left hand side, and I can do a show only if I wanted to and view that. Some of the other options over here, we've got bill of materials and the ability to search for parts. So it's a relatively basic tool, but reasonably cheap. Illustrations is one of the newer add-ons to Solid Edge and is part of the Technical Publications portfolio, and you can access it from the Tools menu, going into Illustrations from here. This will open up the separate application, and in the process it will carry across the information from the assembly and read that into the Illustrations software. So as it comes through, you'll see that it's preparing the model, and that just generates the configurations and the model views and places them onto the storyboard down the bottom, and that can be used to generate the model. So if we see down here, we've got all the default configurations. I'm just going to remove those. I'm only interested in doing a storyboard of an exploded view. So if I click on the Publish tab, you can see that we've got various different options here. I'm going to go into the PDF Publisher, and you'll see that we have a varied set of sort of templates that you can use, going from basic up to something a little bit more complete. So this one gives us our ability to scroll through various scenarios on the one sheet. So going back to the Model tab, you'll see that we have the options here to create an exploded view. So if I click on there, we can go to New Exploded View. I'm just going to go with the default name, and from here we can use the Move Parts command. So basically you specify the part that you want to move. I've got this set to change axis, so I can choose which axis I want to work with, and hit the escape key once you've finished. Then go back to Move Parts, click on a separate part. I can hold the Control key down and select multiple ones together and move those as an item, and then you just carry on doing that to specify how you want each individual piece to be shown in the display configuration or the exploded view. So once you've got your steps done on the exploded view, you can see how that works. I'm going to go down to my storyboard and choose New, and put a name for this step. So I'm just going to call it Nut, and go back to step 1, and in here I can sort of position this so that it's sort of nice and sort of centered, and then you just keep going through and specify each step on the storyboard, and you can then just choose the next option on the list to build that up as you go. So once you've completed your storyboard, you can then sort of go back and edit any one of them if you want to. We could place images or text or callouts, etc. onto the storyboard. Also under the Model tab, you can sort of create a parts list and label each of the parts with the call out command. I'm just sort of going through quickly some of the options here, so we'll sort of move on. So going under publish, I can sort of go in and give this a title, give it a subtitle as well if I wanted to, and add any notes on here. I can add a customer logo, and when you've gone through and completed all that, we can actually just go into the publish now, and that creates a output. So PDF, give it a file name, specify all the document parameters that you want to have within the document, and then you just hit the create PDF, and that goes away to create that PDF document, which we can look at. So this is the final sheet that you end up with, a PDF document, and if we go back to the start point, I should have probably set it up so that it started here, and you can then just sort of scroll through and see the process of how that part is exploded, and you can see that you can sort of create something reasonably quickly with the tools that are here. Obviously this is a very basic sort of scenario, but you know, once you're in your PDF, you're still free to sort of open and explode and view it from different angles, like we were in the other PDF documents. The final option is to use 3D publishing, and you can start it similarly to the way we did with the illustrations, just by clicking on the tool in the under tools, and you can actually start it as a separate application on its own. So once it's opened, it will pull in all that information. So as I said earlier, the single page option, similar to illustrations, multiple page, they've got a number of different styles of product that you can produce. So data sheet, instructions. I'm going to choose maintenance on this case, and you'll see a little preview over here, and you've got multiple pages associated with that, so you can see what it's going to give you. And one of the options is to say use only this page. I'm going to turn that off so that we use all of them, and I can also go into options here and specify a higher quality. So in the illustrations one, I only had a medium, which is why some of the textures looked a little bit different. So if I can up that and go OK and finish, so that goes through and applies that model detail through to the individual parts. So once it's finished processing, you can see that we have a picture of the model here. It's brought all the configurations across, and we have all the different pages that were selected as part of that template. You can also see that we have storyboard configurations and models here. Now, I am not interested in sort of using this one, because if we look at, say, page 3, where we've got our exploded view, we don't actually have the explosion. So I've already done that work. I'm going to just close out of here for the moment and create a new project. That was just to show that you can build from scratch. I'm going to go with the maintenance one again, click on create, insert all pages. So I can go browse and go back to that illustrations one I created earlier and say open on that. So basically it does the same thing. It pulls in that information and applies it to the model. So you can see the quality of this is not as good as the last one when we upped its quality. So from here we can go into the illustrate command, and under storyboard I'm only interested in the assembly, so I'm just going to go new storyboard, which we'll call this cover page, and go OK. So that drops out all of the existing storyboard. We can go new and add the first panel on here. So that creates my storyboard. I have options to modify material. I can go pick a style that I'm interested in and maybe choose this one here, and I can go around and pick the parts that I want to change the style of. Potentially could go with a different option, say the nut up here, and when you're finished you click the tick command. So that's sort of given me my first page. We can come over here. If you're not seeing the project information, you can just pick it from that home tab. So if we look at page 3, not relevant for what I'm doing, so I'm going to delete that page. And then page 3, now we have the instructions. So as you can see, we've got the storyboard that came through from the illustrations. So I can name these pages. So we've got a step-by-step process. And by naming it here, you'll see that it will update over on the main page up here. We can then sort of move on to the next image, and by clicking down here we can sort of give our instructions and sort of move on. If you want to, you can add in a call out, for example, and we can just sort of place that, which cross-references the parts list that's moved in down here. So you just go through and repeat the process for each of the separate stages of the assembly. So moving on from here, let's look at the next page, which is the parts list. So if I come up to the last one where you can see all of the different parts, I'm going to go in, and under the call out you can auto create from visible. So that just creates that in there, and then auto arrange going from the upper right. So from here you can then just readjust as required. So when that's finished you can accept it, and the update set, we can double click on here and update the text in here. And double click when we're finished. So that finishes off the main pages. If I go back to the second one, I can right mouse click on here and update table of contents. So that then completes the list as applied to the thing, and finally we can then sort of publish out to a PDF like we did with the illustration. So one of the difference between this and illustrations is that we've got a multi-page document here, whereas in the illustrations it's a one-pager. So hopefully that gives you some sort of overview of the different products that are available with Solid Edge in terms of 3D publishing of your data.